like to call this meeting of the St. Andrews Task Force to order. First on the agenda this evening, we have reports. First up, the Community Hospital Work Group. Bruce.
Thank you, Chuck. So this is a regular report back to the group. The Community Hospital Work Group had a meeting this morning. We did two things. We looked over the outline of legislation that I have submitted to create a community hospital really a community health care district. The special district comprised of Southport, Boothbay Harbor, and Edgecombe to the legislature. If any of you know the legislative process, you know that submission is just the beginning of a process. We could wind up not submitting it at all. It could wind up being changed quite a bit before it gets submitted. It'll wind up getting changed a lot once it is submitted. Usually it gets through the meat grinder, as you've always heard, the way laws get made. So just to be clear, the community hospital has many advantages over the kind of private corporation that is now running St. Andrews, which is a private, not-for-profit corporation. It has the advantage of openness and transparency. The board is elected by the communities who are members of that district, much like you would do with the water board, for example, which we have here as a special community district. Its bylaws are open, as opposed to the bylaws of the private corporation that now runs St. Andrews, which are not open, so that the public we do not understand what the bylaws are of that corporation, nor do we have any say in who the boards of directors are. So this kind of organization would change all of that. It's an option that we may be able to look at down the road, but of course the big issue is that the community does not own a hospital at this point. The hospital at St. Andrews is owned by St. Andrews Corporation. So we don't know how you would marry up this whole idea of having a community governance of a hospital on the one hand and an actual hospital on the other. Just one of the many thorny issues that we face. But I'm going forward with the legislation at this point because I think that's probably what the community would like to see as an option, but I don't know if in the end we will need to do it or want to do it, but I will be looking for your input all the way along. The second thing that we did was we reviewed some very excellent work that one of our volunteers, Patty Seabold, is doing, interviewing people in the district, in the whole area, on what their healthcare wants, needs, and issues are with respect to their own health and with respect to how they would use St. Andrews now and in the future. A whole lot of really good input that she's getting. She's done 15 interviews. She's going to be scheduled. She's got 18 more on the docket, and we'll be going out to some organizations and to some of you to perhaps get your input on all of this. And this will all provide useful data. It's not the kind of random sample data that you might do in a 4 or 5 year study that would cost $100,000, but it is very good data on what it is that people want for healthcare options in our community. So this is Patty right here. Are you going to report on that later on in any depth, or?
Not this time. I think we should wait till we have more.
So this is Patty, and if you want to be included in the interview process, see Patty perhaps after the meeting. The third thing is that the Community Hospital Group has formed a subcommittee, if you will, consisting of a core group that is Peggy Pinkham, myself, and Attorney Tom Berry, to look at how we would create a strategic plan for a future hospital here, or healthcare. I want to get away from the word hospital because it's the whole healthcare spectrum that we want to look at. And we have been looking at how we would come up with a strategic plan for a different direction for our region than the one that Lincoln County Healthcare has come up with. We have been talking with a consultant, Stroudwater Associates from Portland. who specialize in rural and small hospitals around the country. We have an outline of a plan from them, which we have considered and we believe is the right direction for us to go in to look at an alternative. Now, while you're seated, I'll tell you what it's going to cost. It's going to cost us $50,000 to get this consultant to do this study and recommendation, strategic plan, all combined in one, with a goal of getting it out around New Year's. Because we don't have any more time. It's been pretty clear that we can't move that timeline. So we need to do a hard and fast development of a strategic plan that would be an alternative to what we've been presented by Lincoln County Healthcare. So our group has committed to go forward with that idea, but we have to do fundraising. We can't ask this consultant to start working for nothing. So we don't have that money. I know that as a task force we have some funds. Perhaps the task force, after we get a chance to maybe brief the whole group in a little more detail, perhaps at the next meeting we may be able to talk with the task force about whether or not some of the funds we already have could start to fund this process. But we are also committed to going out and looking at fundraising from other sources. We intend to raise that amount of money. We need to do it fairly quickly so that we can get this study and strategic plan rolling. So that's our plan. It'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. If we can't get the money, then we will know that the community does not want to go in this direction. If we can get the money, then we will know that the community does want to go in this direction. But I have to be honest with you, when I look down the road at when we complete this study, and we've got it, do we have the right to take over St. Andrews Hospital? No, it is owned by a private corporation. So we would have to, between now and then, go to work with St. Andrews to try and, with the board, to try to have them consider the alternatives that we want to put forward, where we look at a broad spectrum of public health care needs that could be met by this institution. We would prevail upon their goodwill to take a look at this and see if there's a different direction that they want to take. If that doesn't work, then plan B is, I'm not sure what. But we need, I think the way I see this is if we don't go down this route, then we've essentially given up the ship. Because we can't just sit and gnash our teeth and pound the walls. We know what Lincoln County Healthcare wants to do. I think we do believe that the direction we're taking will result in the ultimate diminishment and potentially closure of what is there at St. Andrews now, which has already been diminished and will be further diminished. So that's the direction that we're taking. We ask for your support. We will be looking at specific fundraising activities over the next week. We don't have much time. And coming back to the task force next week with perhaps a formal request from the task force as well for the encumbrance of some of the funds that we have, if the task force agrees that this is a way to go. I don't know if there are any questions, but that's where we stand in the community hospital group at this point. Yeah, Brian.
So my name is Brian Blunthen. I live in Booth Bay. So I appreciate the information that you're providing, Bruce. I happen to be just traveling on Route 1 today and on the phone with another resident of the community. And they had asked me, so I just wonder if you can clarify. They had asked me, they said that what they had heard in the community was that legislation that you're proposing is legislation to mandate that we have a hospital down here. And so, I just wanted to, for the sake of information and maybe to clarify, maybe just clarify a little bit for all of us what it is that the legislation you're proposing is focused to do. And I have another question.
Sure. No, the legislation that I'm proposing would essentially create the framework of a special healthcare administrative district like the Water District. But then, after it creates it, the next section of the legislation would say it will be ratified by referendum vote of the people of the different towns proposed to be in the district, so that people would vote on whether or not they wanted to have this kind of a district. But and remember that it would not, it doesn't mandate anything. It creates a district that could run a healthcare facility if it had one. But if it doesn't have one, so that's one of the reasons why I say it may never get presented, because I don't know how you get from what I think the community wants, which is this kind of broad responsibility and input into what the healthcare system down here would be like, to actually having a facility where some of these needs could be met through a community hospital. There are other ways. I mean, the St. Andrews Board could, after we come up with this alternative plan, could say, you know what, you've got some ideas that we maybe should consider. Maybe we can, let's try these out. That could happen. That's what we'd like to see. But the community hospital idea is something to hold in the background. It has worked in other communities, and it's an option, but it wouldn't mandate anything. It would give people here the choice of having something like that available to them.
So my follow-up question would just be to what you just said, which is to sit down at the table with Lincoln County and present sort of your vision of what healthcare organization would look like for Lincoln County.
Yeah.
And do you feel like thus far your group has the vision that Lincoln County has to sort of contrast those yet? To know for certainty that what they are and the direction they are moving in isn't what we need or what we're looking for, other than obviously the obvious piece of the emergency room and the hospital designation. But I'm just,
I think
that's where I think the fruit comes from, is that conversation there.
Yeah. We think the Navigant report has good data. We think that it was looked at by the corporation, Maine Healthcare and Lincoln County Health, in a different way from the way that our group is looking at it. And we also want to expand upon that data to look at a broader spectrum of healthcare needs in the community, a so-called population-based needs assessment that we have to do very quickly. We'll use existing data that comes from Navigant and from other kinds of databases that are available that Stroudwater has access to. And we believe we can craft a plan that would show how you could very productively use the facilities that exist. Perhaps, well, not perhaps, quite definitely we want to preserve, if we can, the community access, critical access hospital designation of that facility. So that's the direction we're taking. We'll use the Navigant data, we'll use other data, we're going to come up with a plan that we think, just looking at it through slightly different lenses, would show us how we could make productive use of what we have here. Yeah, well.
Your strategy is ultimately that you would present this plan to Lincoln County Health and that you would hopefully end up negotiating a change?
Yes, I think that's a good.
They would still own and administer the hospital.
Well, you know, I don't know how it might go from the initial point onward, but our hope is that, and we haven't had any discussion with Lincoln County Healthcare formally on this yet. This is the first time that we really opened this up as to where we are, but we would like to think that we would get an audience with Lincoln County, with the board, and especially the board acting as the board of St. Andrews Hospital, which is what we're concerned about. And I know they're all mixed together, but it's that facility and these communities that we're concerned about. And so yeah, we would hope to have a fruitful discussion once we have this more robust plan in place. So that's the direction we're going. It's going to take now until New Year's, and or probably would take longer if we had all the time in the world, but we don't. So that's what we want to do, and we're hoping that we can engage a lot of the community in an effort to raise funds for this. I have to say that there's no guarantee at the end of this that what we put into this might not result in in what we want, but if you've got a different idea or a better idea about how we proceed to provide that alternative, we'd sure love to know it. I would also love to, at the same time that we present our plan, that we get the economic data that's coming out of what Mary Ellen Barnes and his group is doing, to show what the costs, the losses will be to the community economically if we continue on the present Lincoln County healthcare plan. And hopefully we could reverse some of that by maintaining some of what we have here through the plan that we present. I hear a great silence in the room, maybe 50 Ks.
I just wanted to clarify something.
Jen, could you stand, please?
With 3 separate corporations, all right, you have St. Andrews and Lincoln County Healthcare and Maine Health, correct? Is there any way legally, or is it set in stone, that St. Andrews Corporation could divert itself from?
That's a question for somebody with more legal expertise than I have. I would like to think that there is a body of responsibility in the boards that exist, or the board, however many there are, that is looking at the needs of St. Andrews and of this more local community as opposed to, you know, the state of Maine or the country. And I realize that we're a part of the state of Maine and the country, and there are a lot of trends out there that have to be taken into account. But I don't know the legal answer to your question, but we're hoping to have an audience with people who could make decisions about how this facility gets used and how our healthcare needs might get met in a different way from what's being proposed.
Thank you, Bruce.
You're welcome.
Next under reports, the data analysis report.
Yeah, we're continuing to try to pull together information, and what we've got in the book since the last time I was here is population data for 2010 for the St. Andrews Hospital catchment area, which is the towns of Edgecombe, Boothbay Harbor, and Southport. And so you can look at that and get some sense of these short-term trends. We have a report from the University of New England Center for Community and Public Health, where we extracted from there the Lincoln County data on key findings from their study, which covers a number of dimensions of health needs in the area. We have a huge report that some people at the Muskie Center have passed along to me. It's probably 280 pages or so, which I have not printed out to put in the book. And I'm thinking I probably won't, but I think what I will probably do is give the linkage on the computer linkage to Peggy and let her put it into the weekly summary, so anybody who wants to look at that report can do so. And that's about as far as we've gotten. The book is becoming a little unwieldy now because we've got things in there in the order in which they've been received, so it jumps from one area to another. And I'm going to start tomorrow, putting that book into some kind of order so that we'll have all the population data together, all the data that is state level data together, all the Lincoln County level data together, and all the local area data together. And then I'm going to try to, before I leave, try to give you at least some at least brief written summaries of what's in the data in each of those places. So that's where we are right now.
My question is, how does the population data treat seasonal people? In the interviews I've been doing, one of the things that I've noticed is that people who are here for the summer are actually usually here for 5 months.
Yeah.
That's quite different than somebody who's in and out for a week.
Right.
And they have healthcare needs while they're here,
Sure.
most of which aren't actually being filled.
They will not appear in the population data that we have because the Census Bureau as a de jure count as of April 1st. And it's why the data collection takes a longer period. It's all targeted to the population on April 1st. So people are going to be counted in wherever they live away, not here.
Right.
So this is, but yeah, for the local population, what you're seeing is a very strong age gradient coming down the peninsula, that the Edgecombe population is much younger than the Southport population, and it goes down as you go along. And then just an absolutely enormous increase in elderly people between 2000 and 2010 in all 4 towns, but stronger as you get further south in the peninsula. And that means a concentration of chronic disease at this end of the peninsula, which is something that needs to be taken into account.
That's a common demographic problem with
Yeah.
towns in Maine that have huge summer populations. And I don't know of any Maine town that has a good answer to how to figure out population at specific points. I can tell you the one that I shared with Bruce when we were trying to estimate is we take solid waste, refuse district. How much do they expand? Because everybody makes trash. So that's where we come up with our estimates.
That's a good
yeah.
idea.
But an exact science,
Yeah. I must say though, that I traditionally trained as a demographer, so I did a lot of work on population early on in my career, but I've never seen an age shift this strong as we see in these communities. We're talking about a 7 to 8% change in 1 decade. No, that's enormous. Yes.
thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Farrell.
Next up, Peggy Powers.
All of you should have received the weekly update, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time tonight. I will just thank again all of the volunteers who are coming out of the woodwork, thanking everybody for the money that's being sent that's coming out of the woodwork. I want to address the unanswered questions that came in this week and from the past. Again, lots of people are asking us, well, golly, the town of Edgecombe donated to the task force. Are the other towns going to follow suit? Why or why not? We haven't answered that question yet. Can we add the days until closing on the Save St. Andrews sign? Well, where is he? Where is he? Where, Mr. Pander, where is, that's your question. We haven't got a yes on that yet unless you want to do it.
It's 174 as of today.
How many days?
174.
174 days
The hospital
until
closes in 174 days.
And then the other question was, what happened to the chart of questions when we redid all of the questions and realigned which questions were supposed to be sent to Lincoln County Health, and they were sent and they've never been answered. This week, requests from volunteers in the communities. I need to apologize. I'm screaming for extra writers. Anybody that wants to do a press release on some angle of what's happening here in terms of volunteers or fundraising, I could use the help. We missed the deadline this week, forgot that it was a holiday. We still need we don't need loggers for Channel 7 videos because Livy has said she's going to do them all, bless her little heart. Senior Appreciation Day, see Helen Farnham if you want to help with what's happening on October the 27th from 10 until 2. The early bird sale, Sally Barter is taking care of. I haven't talked to Sally, but that's from 6 to 9 a.m., so if you want to help with that, let us know. We are still fulfilling the poll sitters on Election Day. The list is over on the table. If you want to put your name on that list, you can see who has already signed up. And I think that's probably it. I'm going to say the last request for ambulance questions appeared in this last week's register, and they also are very interesting. So one more week of the collection of the questions, and then we'll have some movement on following up with the ambulance service. So once again, thank you all for all of the things that you're doing, and I appreciate the phone calls.
Thank you.
Peggy, I can answer one of your questions for you. The town of Edgecombe, the town of Southport, and the town of Boothbay have all pledged $500 to the task force.
That's very good.
Thank you for that update. Next, we have the Luther Region Ambulance Service Work Group.
I haven't talked to the ambulance service, but I see Robbie sneak in, and I was wondering maybe, I know you guys met this morning, is that correct?
This afternoon.
This afternoon?
I was not at the meeting. I just briefly talked to Scott between me showing up tonight and him going on a call. I think that everything was very positive. On the ambulance side, we're continuing to prepare to serve the towns in whichever direction. There is, between a grant that we have received and some funding from Lincoln County Healthcare, there's going to be a lot of upgraded training going on this winter. There's going to be some licensure classes for people to upgrade their license to the next level. There's going to be some other more critical care training for the higher license levels that are going to be offered here in town. So we're pushing forward with all of our normal stuff. There's a preliminary budget that will be out within a week. We got to meet with the 3 towns to share it with them first. That information will be out there. We're working into our budget process anyways for this year. That's available. We're going to be available. And like I said, I know that Scott told me the meeting was very positive today with Lincoln County Healthcare and the training opportunities and what have you. We're working on a minor upgrade to the garage at the house next door so that we can house the 4th ambulance in a heated space this winter. So the fundraising that we're doing to help pay for the truck and help stock it and make it so that we can put it in service is ongoing. I think we're at $35,000 of a $175,000 goal, which includes the cost of the vehicle plus the upgraded supplies to be able to have 4 ambulances in service instead of 3. So that's the quick update.
The Booth Bay Board of Selectmen met last night. Dale Harmon will be our representative.
Hoping to meet with them before the end of the week, but you know, Thursday, Friday night, if I meet with the budget committee, then that'll get all the information out to the public sooner.
Sorry for the delay.
That's no problem. We haven't been quite ready yet either, so.
Okay. Thank you, Robbie. Next up, Lincoln County Regional Planning Economic Impact Study.
Well, work continues. I just want to make an announcement that next Wednesday we will be meeting at 6:30 at the Booth Bay Firehouse. So, and everybody's welcome to come. And after saying that, I'll turn that over to Mary Ellen.
Yes, we have a meeting next Wednesday, and usually our meetings run 2 or 3 hours. So we're going to set aside about an hour for discussion about the hospital, so perhaps we can have representatives of the task force make an introduction. I think it would be very interesting to the other communities to know how you come together. So I would like to give you more than an hour, but we'll play it by ear. In terms of the economic impact study, like all of us, I think we were hoping to get a lot done for little or no money. There's a lot of impacts, as we talked about the last few months, to the closing of the ER room. And I put out a very ambitious list of impacts to some economists and some funders. And basically, I think I'm going to get some assistance from a University of Maine professor who is an author of a number of economic impact studies in the state. It's going to be tied to direct impacts of the loss of projected jobs. So I'm working with Lincoln County Healthcare and Cindy Levitt on those specific positions, and we'll provide to him those positions and their wage rates. I would like to get to larger impacts like the River Road and the ambulance service and the impact on whether the peninsula remains an attractive place to retire. Those are almost impossible to have funded in a quick, inexpensive way. This is a small community, so comparing the impact on Booth Bay, Harbor, Peninsula is very different from other areas around the country, so it's harder to do those studies quickly. I'm kind of generalizing here, but I had to find somebody who would do something in a timely way and based on the specific impacts that will happen with the ER closure. So we're making progress. I think, I'm not sure when I can have data to Bruce, but it will be in a relatively short order compared to my larger scale study. We also have in the past put in applications, this is not exactly related, but to EPA for some brownfields assessment, which is an opportunity if we win the funding next spring to look at sites that are potential hazardous or petroleum waste sites. In the course of doing that, we look at DHHS data and Mid-Coast Public Health District data. So I can pass that along to your growing binders there. It's a little bit county-based and also Mid-Coast based. It's not broken down by town. So there's some other data sources around health that we can provide too. So we're making a little bit of progress. It's a little smaller study than we had in mind, but it will get done in a timely way.
May I ask
Yes.
For clarification, on the the impact of the loss of projected jobs, do you know if he'll be taking into account the impact on real estate prices as people's homes go on the market? That's one of the questions I got asked in the interview.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be able to be done in a quick manner with the numbers, the scale that we have. But it's something, so in one sense, the UMaine study will give us a short report on specific impacts, but we're also looking at, as I'm sure you are, Patty, with some of the other rural studies that have taken place across the country to see whether we can pull some, not generalizations together, but some trends together. So I think we're going to look to what's happening in other parts of the country in terms of closing of ERs or closing of hospitals. So we'll try to combine humane information with some qualitative assessment. But it's just hard to compare every aspect of what's happening here with other areas enough to make a prediction. And Peggy has suggested that we could put this on camera at some point, so perhaps we can do that with Arthur's assistance as well.
I get that question a lot about property values, and property values are hard to figure out looking forward, and that's what the town supposedly does really well is assess property values, and we're usually looking in the rearview mirror at sales data to figure out trends so that we can assess values. I think that anything that we came up in short term would be speculative. But I know that's everybody's question is how does that affect my property value? It's a good question.
Property values and assessed values are two different numbers.
Right.
They're not the same, and that's a concept a lot of people don't understand. So your value to your property could decrease because there's no hospital, but your assessment might not be affected at all.
Right.
Because it's the fair distribution of the tax burden, it's not the actual value of your property.
Said as a true selectman, thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Next under reports, financial and fundraising. Jim?
First thing, I was waiting for my opportunity to report, but it was brought to my attention at the last meeting that maybe I used a disrespectful tone, and that wasn't my intent when I was addressing Stacy Miller. And I apologize via email, but I wanted to do it personally and in the public while everybody's paying attention. It's not my intent to be disrespectful, and it is really easy to be caught up in the moment, especially when you have an emotionally charged room. But that's not an excuse, and I apologize. As far as financial, we have received to date $22,338.72. The first payment to Kozak and Gayer was made in this last warrant, so it's not reported in the financials, but it was just under $800. We've been pretty wise about how we engage Julius, so as not to expend a lot of money quickly. The other thing to report is the Boothbay Civic Association donated $1,000 last week. So my hat's off to the Boothbay Civic Association. I'm sure they heard the call. They probably answered before they even got a letter or any correspondence. So thank you to the Boothbay Civic Association. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. Hi, Pam. It's hard to see you back there.
Okay, Jenny and I worked together. We sent out 18 letters, and the Civic Association did get one.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Before. And so we sent those out to different associations. And I've got another list here that we'll work on. some more, but you're right, $1,000 was a wonderful thing from the Booth Bay Civic Association. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed that the rest will send us something too. That's all we can do.
Booth Bay Civic Association is always playing leadership roles in
Right.
things like this, so
Definitely.
I'm glad that they are now. So
And we decided, thankfully, for the town gave us envelopes.
Yes,
So that we
we like to thank Booth Bay for the
Yes,
envelopes.
thank you, because we were able to put addressed, already
Self-addressed.
stamped envelopes in with the letter, hoping that that would, when they opened it up, they would always stamp. So we're moving on anyway.
Thank you. Old business, mental health services.
like I said, I'm going to keep it on old business until I'm prepared to ask questions. I did a little bit of research this weekend, and I'm just trying to figure out if I can come up with any really good questions asked Lincoln County Healthcare as it pertains to mental health and an emergency response. And I have a few things that I've been reading through, but I don't have my questions posed yet. It was a short week this week. So.
You know, I'm on the board of Healthy Kids. I didn't even think to run this by them.
Oh, that's a good connection.
It's a very good connection.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Can I ask one more question about finances?
Sure.
The monies that we have so far in the fund, is there an agenda for the monies? I mean, do you folks have where the money is basically right now going to be allotted? There
isn't a budget for the expense of money, but everything that is expended has to go through the task force members, similar to a board of selectmen setup. So they have to have three. The way we design the agreement between the four towns is they'd actually have to have 3 of the 4 votes in order to expend any money. They voted to hire Kozak and Gayer, but there hasn't been any other purchases other than that.
I just get asked it a lot, that's,
Right.
you know.
So if there's something any of you guys need monetarily for things that you're doing, just put a proposal to us.
We're fine.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, you know, we're certainly gonna be supportive of what's going on. But right now, we mostly have it put towards legal expenses,
Right.
you know?
And some of the trivial expenses, like copies and printing and postage and stuff, the town of Booth Bay has kind of taken it on as it would take more time to split up those costs than to just absorb them. So the town of Booth Bay, as Chuck said, has taken on a role in absorbing some costs and then still donated to the cause. And that was the discussion last night at the Booth Bay Board of Selectmen meeting. They were saying, well, we've donated so much in kind, but the board said that they still wanted to continue a leadership role because, as they said, we kind of started it. We should continue to fund it.
Bruce?
So, Chuck, I'm assuming that, given the number that I put out there earlier, that you could probably expect our effort might come back to you at a subsequent meeting and look for a piece of that funding to fund the strategic plan. Is this, you make these decisions at these meetings and in public, I assume?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah, so we would come back, if not next week, then the following week with a more fleshed out proposal that you can get your arms around and look for some help from the funds that you raised. I believe that would be.
Be looking forward to your proposal.
Yeah. To be honest, Bruce, it'd be good if you actually got that to us before that, so that we can dig into it a little bit and
Yep.
we're not looking at it green.
Planning to kind of open it up a little more at the next Tuesday morning's community hospital meeting, but if I get something ahead of time, I'll ship it to you. When I ship it to the committee.
Thank you. Next under old business, second interview.
I made a couple of phone calls to some prospective emergency room directors and I'm just waiting they're busy people, and we had a short week, so I don't have anything to report, but I am working on lining up a second interview.
Okay.
at the direction that we talked at the last meeting.
All right.
Did you take back your poll?
Yes.
Next, under old business, the polling question for November 6th.
I put together something short and sweet because I went through a lot of things that were long and soliloquies, and I've come to the realization that I think shorter's better. And what I'm proposing is that we would put forth a question of we, the undersigned of the town of whichever one, support maintaining the status of a critical access hospital for St. Andrews Hospital, period.
Yeah.
Short, sweet, and to the point, that we want people to know that we want to keep that critical access. That's my thought on the subject. Certainly open to anybody else's.
Well, I have to say that's much shorter than the one I'd worked on last week, but it's to the point, and I think it's exactly what we're all looking for.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
The simplicity is gonna allow people that are, I mean, some
Right.
people are ducking into the polls,
Yeah.
to do their duty within their 15-minute break or something, and that gives them the moment to weigh in and not have to orient themselves on the question.
So if everybody's happy with that,
I'd say we use that.
works for me, Bill.
Can I solicit somebody to do the contacting of the clerks? I'd rather not
I've
contact.
contacted one and she's aware of what's going on. Not very happy, but
Yeah,
understands.
and another one is okay with it.
Yeah.
Okay, and another one is okay with it. Then I will contact our clerk and I'll just make sure that they know. I don't want to be influenced, you know.
I would like to say one thing regarding this. If any of you people are going to be volunteering on election day to sit in the polls, it is important for you to understand that you cannot solicit, you cannot have extended conversations. The reason these polls are open that day are for people to vote. That's why they're open and that's why they're there. And we're not there to disrupt what's going on. So anybody who's going to take on that responsibility has to make sure that they do it appropriately and quietly, and they're not causing any kind of disruption to the vote that's going on, because that's what's important that day, is the election that's going on. Absolutely.
Patty?
I think we're gonna need to arm those poll people with a short blurb that explains what a critical access hospital is, because people may ask that.
But again, it's going to have to be short and sweet and to the point. And I think whoever we're going to have doing these things, it's probably be good if we can set up some kind of a time beforehand to have some kind of a training, so they'll understand what the expectations are. Because the last thing we want to be is disruptive to the polling places.
You can leave something out for them to read.
Yeah.
So they can sit there and they read it and then read your
Right.
petition and sign it. So.
Right. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Could you put it in the paper maybe the week before voting?
It's a question.
Yeah.
I don't see why we couldn't do that. Sure. Absolutely.
And then they know.
Yeah. Well, at least,
Good idea.
yeah, absolutely.
Peggy?
And is there any reason why this has to only be done at on voting on November? We can take this same petition to the Senior Appreciation Day,
Football
the early bird
games,
sale.
anywhere.
In terms of people signing more than once, I guess they could, because it's not a poll that we're voting on anything, but we should tell them if they've signed one place, we're gonna have to input the names to make sure that we don't have one person signing 12,000
Right,
times. But
exactly. I really want to try to limit it as much as we can to having everybody sign once, just so that we're,
because the other events were not limited to not creating a stir. If somebody wants to talk at length about what's going on,
absolutely.
we can be prepared. But we still need to train anybody who's going to be working with this question. I think that's a very good point, whoever made that point. We need training and making sure that everybody's on the same page.
You know, I think Bonnie would volunteer to train a group of people that were gonna be involved in the question on what the rules that apply to that day, because it's in her best
I
interest.
think Donna would too, in fact, I
Right.
guarantee it.
Because there's nothing more powerful than a clerk on voting day.
It's their house.
It is their house that day.
Okay, good. There is one thing under old business. Stacy had sent a number of questions that she was seeking answers for. And one of the ones I told her that I would take care of tonight. And Lincoln County Health keeps getting asked to release their bylaws in their minutes. And Stacy has stated many times, the only way that that's going to happen is if our attorney talks to their attorney. So I'm going to ask the task force to authorize Jim to ask JC to ask their attorney for that information. If there's information that needs to be redacted because it's patient information, I can totally understand that being redacted. But I'm asking that we request that information through council.
I take that as a motion, my friend.
Yeah.
I would second that motion.
And I'll go along with it too.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So now we don't have to ask her that question any longer.
Right, leave her alone.
Our attorney will
Our
get after
attorneys
their
will take
attorney.
after it.
All set? Next, we have new business. Recap the next meeting.
Well, obviously, we're still working on the 2 old business items. And I think the most important thing that we need to do is, comes up number 5 on our agenda, is going to the executive session. And Bruce said something that I wanted to, it wasn't his comment, but I wanted to extrapolate off that. The only thing that hasn't happened in a public meeting is strategizing legal, doing legal strategy. We put on the agenda for tonight, so this meeting will be relatively short, for the task force to go into executive session and talk legal strategy one more time, which may possibly be the last time that they have a meeting that's not in the public purview. And then everything else could possibly be in front of the public. Appreciate your patience, but don't be deceived. Nearly everything has happened right here in front of everyone, except for legal strategy. So I don't have any, I mean, the recap is gonna happen in 5.
Okay. All right. Public comment. Yes, sir.
I'd just like to make a request. We know that a lot of people that are concerned about the hospital, people from away, and right about now they're all leaving, and a number of people have voiced requests to me to continue to be involved in what's going on. And they obviously can't attend the meetings, but they can provide a lot of expertise. I know there's at least 2 physicians who have left and really want to stay involved on a day-to-day basis, really, and provide their expertise. So I'd like to request that the work groups try to include them and give them a chance to say, answer questions, maybe serve as volunteers and whatever. And a way to do that is if you just include the Google Group address in some of your correspondence. If you're working on a problem and you can't find an answer, just include that address. It's St. Andrews Hospital at googlegroups.com. Just add that to an email. If you have a question, just send it to that email. You have to be a member of the group, first of all. But if you send an email to that, if you have a request for a volunteer, you want somebody to do research or something, please give those people a chance to do something. So, if anybody has any questions about that, if you are not, with the group, if you can send me an email, I can add you onto the group. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Since not, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 4056E to discuss consultation with legal counsel.
So seconded.
And we won't return to regular session.
You will not.
All those in favor?
Aye.